Hi, my name is Sharon St.Clair, and I am with the St.Clair Group of Keller Williams. I'm an agent in Pennsylvania, actually Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas, Western Pennsylvania. I wanted to come today to talk to you a little bit about representation and buyer agency in the purchase of real estate. For those of you who don't know my background, I'm an agent, I'm a partner, as I just mentioned, but I'm also previously a co-founder of a nationally award-winning inspection company, and I'm also a former practicing attorney. I always say that not because I've never practiced in real estate, and that has never been the scope of my representation as an agent. However, it gives me a different perspective. With that said, you're seeing a lot in the papers about what's going on and the changes in real estate, and you might have some questions around representation. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own personal experience and give you some things for your consideration to think about, and then also some questions to ask when evaluating an agent. Let's talk about real estate for a moment. For most people, this will be your most expensive purchase that you make in your lifetime. It's a very important one. Real estate is not just your home, it's also an asset. It's a personal asset, and you actually have control over the value of that asset in your ownership. Real estate as an asset class is 4 times the size of the stock market, and it's much more personal, and it's much less efficient because we're involving people, unlike when you go to make trades, and it's emotional. Whether you are buying or selling, there's typically emotions involved in that, and sometimes it can be very highly charged. Being highly charged also makes it highly unpredictable at times, and you can have a degree of uncertainty through this process. People don't realize that in the course of a real estate transaction, and I'll talk about my experience in a moment, all the things that go on behind the scenes. So it's not just about, do I get an agent? But it's basically, who is the team surrounding that you are putting together for your benefit? Who are all the other parties? Because there are many. The agent is the quarterback in coming onto the field. Let's talk a moment about what that means. Typically, when you're going to go purchase a home, there's going to be several milestones from the day that you wake up and say, I think I'm interested in buying a house, to the day that you sit down and sign closing papers and get those keys. So you could have anywhere between 12 to 20 milestones. Task, you could have anywhere between 80 to 100 plus tasks that occur. And you have a variety of different people working in the background, all communicating like puzzle pieces at different points for your benefit and on your behalf. So maybe they're not keeping you always up to date, but there's definitely a lot of discussion and planning and positioning for your benefit. Now, depending upon the state that you're in, and this is going out to the country because the changes in real estate are not just by the state, but they are national. So, and they talk about buyer agency in Pennsylvania. We've had buyer agency for over 20 years. So the discussion is a little bit different here. It's always been negotiable. But with that said, you are looking at getting representation. You want a fiduciary, not a functionary, and there is a difference. A fiduciary is you are in a relationship with someone who they are committed to serving your interest. Your interests are always at the heart of every decision and everything that they do. You're not going to wake up and randomly say, I think I'm going to wake up this morning and I think I'm going to get married. I'm going to walk down the street and you're just going to pull someone off and say, I'm going to marry you. Of course, you would never do that. And the good news about the changes in real estate are that now we are at a watershed moment. So you are going to have an up close and personal opportunity to have a different conversation with the people that are going to be representing you. And I'm going to give you some questions to ask. I'm making this video because it's personal to me. It's personal for this reason. I grew up very poor. I was the first one to go to college in my family. And when I went to buy a house, and I grew up in an apartment, um, I just figured, okay, well, I've saved money, so now it's time to go buy a house. Let's do that. I didn't understand the complexities of it, did not appreciate it. And because of that, I could have done a much better job had I been properly positioned. So I did kind of the random thing that a lot of people do. Got an agent, didn't really think about it, and just jumped in. And then I ended up closing. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have bought the house, but I'm saying, looking back on it, it could have been a very different experience and a very different outcome. I was very stressed. And that first year of ownership cost me a lot of money. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have bought the house, but it would have been a very different transaction, I assure you. I want you to think about some things. People ask me, and again, I was never a real estate attorney, but I still get the questions. I was actually counsel to the stock exchange, a regional stock exchange. Should I hire an agent? Can I just do this alone? I'm going to say to you, if you were to stand in front of a judge as a defendant, you can stand in front of them in one of three ways. You can stand in front of that judge unrepresented on your own. You can stand there with a limited representation, like a public defender or a limited agent who's probably overworked and underpaid, or you can stand there fully represented by someone who's hopefully the dream team, fully invested in your outcome. In all three of those scenarios, if you were to stand in front of a judge, what do you think the likely outcome would be? I get the question, well, shouldn't I just go and hire an attorney? That's up to you. But when I tell you that there is a lot more to the transaction than just the contract, as I said to you, there are at least a dozen to 20 milestones. Attorneys are typically involved in a very small portion of the process, not the entire process. Agency is involved in the entire process as a fiduciary, not a functionary. When you go to meet with an agent and you say, I want to go see a house, open the door for me, you're asking them just to be a functionary. Just go open the door for me. That doesn't really help you. You want a fiduciary. These are questions that you should be asking when making a decision about who you want to work with as a buyer's agent. Number one, ask for the resume. Agents have them. They're happy to provide them. Agents that are committed to this business, they're very well prepared for that. Number two, are they full-time or are they part-time? Why does that make a difference? This is a profession. The learning curve in this business is steep. As someone who is in it, I never had a full appreciation until being involved and doing a lot of transactions. What can happen? What can occur unexpectedly because life plays out in housing? Are they full-time or part-time? Because if this is their side hustle, that's something that you really want to consider and think about. You want to know, number three, what is their experience? How long they've been in the business. You also want to know what they did before they entered real estate. Because real estate brings a very interesting group of people together with all kinds of varying backgrounds. And some of those backgrounds can be very advantageous to you as a client, depending upon what that was. Anything around housing, construction, anything related to that is obviously to your advantage. Understanding, negotiating, communications, contracts, again, hard skills, all to your advantage. It's not just the length of time that they've been in the business, but now we get to probably one of the most important questions is performance. So we know the resume. Are they full-time? Are they part-time? What is their experience? How long they've been an agent? Were they fully immersed in the business? Or do they sell, maybe a couple homes a year for many, many years? But that's a different type of agent. Again, experienced. But again, let's get to performance. So with performance, how many homes are they selling? Where do they rank in the MLS? Or what is their overall production? Please remember that you can have transactions that are not necessarily in the MLS, but are still part of real estate and production. So I don't want you to be misguided and think, oh, the numbers are only going to be in the MLS, because that may or may not be the case. So you want to get a sense of their overall production. And you want to typically go with people that are going to be they've done a lot of transactions that give you that comfort level. So you look statistically. People don't realize this. It's actually a very small part of the agents that do a majority of the transactions. So you want to get comfortable and ask those types of questions. And don't be afraid. You also want to find out if they have any concentrations or specialties. What types of clients they typically represent. What's been their experience? Do they get involved in first-time home buyers a lot? Do they get involved in relocation? They might serve a mix of clients. New construction, do they have, specialty expertise? Do they get involved with investors? Luxury, new construction, 55-plus living, first-time home buying, relocation. There's a variety of different specialties. So you want to find out if they have any education or additional experience around this. I want you to remember that you're going to be making a lot of choices. And there are consequences to all of these decisions. So people that know better, they do better. When you are positioned and you are educated, you're going to have a great outcome. You are going to be properly positioned. And you're going to have a great experience. I hope some of this was helpful to you today. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any point. My direct number is 724-503-0014. I want to congratulate you, and I just want to wish you the best in your home buying journey.